Echoes of Aincrad. This is the new SAO game. I'm remotely curious about this one. Because apparently the game's actually kind of good. Which is weird, because it's an SAO game. And I don't think anyone would expect a fucking SAO game to be good. She watched this during your downtime. I had a hard time understanding the complex writing in the Succession War. What is this? Oh, God. What really happens after the anime ends? Hour 50. Yeah, he's obviously not watching it now. Yeah, I might check that out on my own time. Speaking of checking it out on my own time, I need to watch a fucking video on what the hell happened during the mobile game for Kingdom Hearts. Because that's going to be relevant for the next game. That's going to be very, very relevant for the next game.
Alright guys, welcome back to another one. So today I've got a preview for Echoes of Aincrad. This is the next big action RPG video game coming out of the Sword Art Online franchise.
It actually looks like a good game, which is weird for SAO games. Like, I know some of the more recent ones have been getting better, but I'm surprised that people are liking this.
Bandai Namco reached out to see if I wanted a little taste test of the game before it releases next month. It was revealed earlier this year, and I immediately took interest. Not as a Sword Art Online fan, I should probably let you know that I know the bare minimum about SAO. I've personally never watched the series.
Do it.
Rather, I took interest in the fact that this looks like a pretty solid action RPG. What I can tell you about Sword Art is it's a VR MMORPG isekai that's made possible through this headset known as nerve gear. Otherwise, yeah, I'm a fresh duck in this pond. I went into this more of a fan of action RPGs, looking at the game objectively.
How is that your entire knowledge of it?
Is it fun to play, and what?
Did you see the evolution of art in Naruto? The evolution of art in Naruto? I don't think so. That could be fun. That could be very fun, actually. Might check that out afterwards.
Does it offer? However, fans of Sword Art Online will probably get a major rush out of this game, as I guess you could consider it to be canon adjacent. The story here
That's pretty much every SAO game. They're all canon adjacent.
Takes place during the same time as the main events of the original story arc, even to the point where the game actually includes the original characters, Kirito. That right there, when I heard that, I was like, that's... Just hearing him say Kirito was enough to make me want to watch the video. And the gang, they are all here. I've explicitly been told that that's pretty much...
The game is actually kind of pretty. I don't know how I feel about it going with more of like a detailed art style. I would have preferred it to go like more lean, like heavier into like the anime art style, but I think it works for this game.
Much all I can tell you about the main story beats here and the involvement of those OG characters. Otherwise, Echoes of Aincrad revolves around your own custom created character. I believe that this is the first time a SAO video game has done this. This means that the story unfolds as you being a new player into the world of Sword Art Online, forming new parties, taking on quests. This is kind of a fun way of the creator of SAO to say, hey, you've actually had direct involvement and input as a player in the world and universe of Sword Art Online. And I can imagine for diehard fans, this is going to be a major selling point. So with this preview build,
I think as long as the combat's good, like that's enough to kind of sell it.
Of the game, which took me about 3 hours to complete. I finished up the prologue and then played a little beyond that section. I was also able to try 3 quests that take place a little bit later on in the game. This was great because it gave me an idea as to like sort of what the gameplay and content looked like once your character had leveled up a bit, had a little bit of gear. I got to try out a whole range of different weapons and the weapon skills along with various different party members. So I put about 8 hours into this and I definitely do have some thoughts. So the entire game takes place within inside of Aincrad Castle. This is a massive floating castle consisting of 100...
He said Aincrad Castle. You know he's definitely not an SEO fan. It's just Aincrad.
Floors, but you can pretty much think of the floors inside of the castle containing multiple massive spanning worlds. It's a pretty famous location for Sword Art Online, as it is featured within the first story arc from the series.
This is true.
This is a pretty cool location for Sword Art fans to finally explore. However,
We explored it in previous games, just not to this level of detail.
the game is not going to contain all 100 floors of the castle. In fact, the director of the game did directly mention that in order to create all 100 floors, we'd probably be looking at a development time of around about 10 years. So,
Make it
rather,
happen.
the game here is only going to contain 2 floors of Aincrad. That's fine though, because keep
If they are detailed enough to the point where they're actually worth exploring, I think that's fine. Because that's kind of the way that Progressive's being handled as well.
keeping in mind, a floor is essentially an entire world in itself. So the world spaces so far from what I got
I think what they've done with this to make it work is make each of the floors, like, really fucking big. Like, vastly bigger than they would have been in the actual series, which I think is fine.
to experience are quite large. But you should know that this is not an open world game. I'd more so deem it as being semi-open world or consisting of large open zones. The entire structure of this
What I will say, though, is it is very much SAO adjacent because you're going to be hitting max level on floor 2, which obviously does not make sense in the actual world of SAO.
game is accessed via quests. So you'll begin the game in the town of
This is an
beginnings.
interesting
Then
level
you
of
go to the
NPC
terminal and take on a
density
quest,
in the
and the
towns.
quest will take you into the open zone to pursue your objective. It seems that each quest takes you to a pretty large open zone. Now, you don't absolutely have to shoot for the main objective here. Because these zones are so large, there is a certain level of exploration. You can go off the beaten path, explore, defeat mobs of enemies for materials as well as XP. I'll say though that these zones don't exactly consist of a whole abundance of content to really nail down and encourage exploration. From what I got to experience, there are really only 2 world activities that exist within these zones. Finding chests that do contain some helpful stuff along with money, and the art shrines, which you can activate to spawn in an elite or mini boss enemy. Upon defeating these guys, a seal will unlock, giving you access to a new path that'll likely just end up leading you to a chest. There are also these safe havens located in each region of the zones that you get to explore while you're on a quest, and activating these will uncover a portion of the map, displaying where chests and arcs are located. Otherwise though, you're really just walking through these large zones to get to your objective, all while dealing with small mobs of enemies and picking up materials lying on the ground. Now remember that my experience is simply just based on a preview build, playing the beginning of the game and 3 quests, so I can't say that this is all of what, I guess, the world content and the core of the content here actually consists
I think
of.
you can make that interesting if they're going to have enemy diversity. Enough interesting enemy types. You're not like fighting, you know, these bulls 10 times in a row.
But if I'm being incredibly honest with you guys, I came away from this not really too satisfied with the gameplay loop here. There were times where in each quest I felt like I was just running through these really large zones that to a certain degree felt void of actual fun content to engage in, all while trying to pursue the main path to eventually reach the main boss. So to make my trips quicker throughout these big spaces, I decided to stock up on a bunch of blink talismans. That way I could just dodge travel throughout the entire level just to reach the end goal. Who knows though, maybe the zone content does get a little bit more interesting. Remember, I only got to experience the very beginning of the game and then like 3 quests.
If the game is encouraging that kind of behavior, like, not
exactly a great deal of content, but just based on my first impressions, I didn't exactly walk away from this too impressed. Once you finish a quest, you'll get a nice detailed list of all of the items you collected throughout, whether it's equipment, materials, or new weapons, and a nice helping of XP. You're then sent back to the town hub. Now, looking at town hubs, there are multiple throughout the game. As you progress through the story, you'll unlock more hubs to access. Of course, these are where you take on your quests, but you've also got an item shop. Here you can purchase a bunch of usable items, along with crafting items using materials gathered out in the world. There's also the smithy, where you can craft new weapons and armor pieces, again using materials. You will need a recipe, and recipes can be found in armor pieces, again using materials. There's also the smithy, where you can craft new weapons using materials gathered out in the world. There's also the smithy, where you can craft new weapons.
Proto Elucidator. So you can just get carried. Yeah, this is just fan service game, isn't it? You can just get. You're on floor 1. You can get Kirito's sword, which is supposed to be like a end game item, basically. Silver ingot, hard bone, mage stone. I'm assuming this is not like difficult to craft. So right, okay. Let me guess, you can probably get Astena's rapier as well. Not on the list here, but I reckon you probably can at some point.
Gain using materials, you will need a recipe, and recipes can be found mainly in chests via exploration. You can also upgrade weapons.
Oh, no, there it is. I think that's it, maybe. Maybe they paid tribute to the guy.
Using any of the other weapons in your inventory. There is a certain weapon level cap, though this can be raised based on your cardinal level. The cardinal level is separate to your main character's level. This can be raised by progression of the main story, and I guess it's basically a way of ensuring that the player doesn't get too strong too early on in the game with the weapon upgrading. There's also the weapon synthesis system. Each weapon comes with 4 slots for what's known as an EX mod. It's basically an additional perk. This can be stuff like increased HP, increased defense, attack, increased sprint speed or attack speed, increased critical hit rate, and you're able to transfer an EX mod from one weapon onto another. Because this is Sword Art Online acting as an MMORPG world, this means that you are getting loot and drops quite often. It means that you're getting a ton of gear, whether it's armor or weapons. In a way, this game is a looter, so you're constantly feeding all of your junk gear and items into the main weapons that you're currently trying to work on to strengthen. These systems are fun because you might get a really bad weapon, but the EX mod that's attached to it might be useful for your main gear. The last important aspect of the town hub is the chest, which is located in the inn. This is where you can switch around your equipment. This cannot be done anywhere else other than the chest. You can also switch your items that are in your pouch for quick access, and also change the weapons for any of your party members. Party members can be given any weapon so long as it pertains to their type of weapon. So Iori here can only use swords, but she can use any of the swords that we've previously picked up or
discount
upgraded.
Asuna.
The chest is also where you'll allocate your growth points. This is the main character progression system of the game. Whenever you level up,
everything
you'll gain 3
into
growth
strength,
points, or also by defeating bosses. There's 7 different attributes here that all relate to strengthening your character in different areas. For example, endurance will increase stamina and vitality will increase health. It's important to know, though, that weapons do have scaling based on strength, dex, agility, and intelligence. You'll also unlock bonus modifiers for reaching a certain level within a specific attribute. But I have to say, I do like the character progression systems of this game.
Can you
respec, though? That's a decent amount of freedom of building your character your way. Now, from what I've experienced so far, the combat system here seems to be one of the stronger aspects of the game. It feels good, it's responsive, it's fluid, and it is fun most of the time, whether it was the smaller enemy mobs that I was encountering out in the world space, or the few boss fights that I got to verse. It's pretty simple stuff though. You've got light attacks.
I wonder if you get to do the floor bosses.
There is a guard system, along with even a parry system, which involves your current party member. Each weapon type throughout the game has a unique set of abilities, with up to 3 abilities being able to be equipped at one time. These require the use of the SP resource, but when an ability is used, it also goes on a cooldown. The game features 6 different weapon types. You've got short swords, rapiers, daggers, maces, great swords, and great axes, all of which contain unique movesets. I specifically tried out the short sword, which is what you start with, the rapier, as well as the great axes. Weapon types also come with a proficiency level as well. This is separate to the upgrade level, and this increases as you defeat enemies. Increasing
the more you use the weapon, the more you
unlock more weapon skills for that weapon category. Party members also play a role in the combat here too. When you go to initiate a quest, you'll get to choose which party member you want to take along with you. Some quests only allow you to take in 1 extra person, though others allow you to take in multiple. Every party member here though is different. They use a different weapon type and come with a unique set of active skills that you can activate. The first skill is generally a team-up attack between your character and whoever you've brought in, which dishes out a ton of damage. The other skill is more support-orientated, providing buffs like increased damage, defense, or a healing aura. You can also to command your party member by pressing triangle to go in and attack to grab aggro from an enemy or recall them to bring them back. This is useful because this game revolves around a stamina system. Although I would deem Echoes of Aincrad to be more of a classic action RPG, the stamina system here is very reminiscent of your classic stamina system from Souls games. Attacking, sprinting, and dodging while you're in combat will consume stamina.
Oh, that's what that bar is. Okay, so the blue bar is probably your
party member in to
sword,
grab the
skill,
aggro off
SP, whatever it is.
you can get out of harm's way to replenish your stamina gauge. This definitely makes the combat system here a little bit more methodical than your typical like hack and slash either action game or action RPG. This did take a little while to get used to because I just don't expect a stamina system to be present here in a non-Souls-like game. Honestly, at first I didn't really enjoy this, but after a while everything started to click and I understood the flow and the approach to this game's combat system.
You got stuck on. Okay, I love
the approach to this game.
Look, that's beautiful.
Started to click and I understood the flow and the approach to this.
He got stuck on the rock here.
This game's
and then randomly gets hit from the attack with the enemies way over here.
Combat system.
For sure, game. That makes sense.
I also found some of the boss fights here to be quite interesting as well. So for some bosses, not all of them, when you deplete their entire health bar, they'll go into a staggered state where you have to perform a heavy attack on them to break off or decapitate a part of their body. This basically acts as one bar of health, where you'll have to do this a few times before eventually defeating the boss. Deliming also applies to smaller field enemies as well. When you go in for a final blow with a heavy attack, there'll be this like slow motion kind of like camera zoom pan in.
It's not every single time.
Completely cut in half. This is quite satisfying. However, I do have two problems here with the combat system. Number one is minor. It's just simply dodging. I feel as if it could just feel better to pull off. But number two is the difficulty. Now you can change this game's difficulty on the fly. I experienced most of the preview build here on normal, but ended up changing it to hard later on. I found that on both hard and normal, boss fights were a decent challenge. But looking at most of the smaller field enemies that you encounter, whether I was on normal or hard, they were ridiculously easy to the point where I was like 1 to 2 hitting most of them. So again, this comes back to the problem I have with the game's current approach to exploration with these really large zones with kind of what feels like a lack of content where the combat that's also present here just doesn't feel great because I'm just walking through everything. It's important to keep in mind though that I was provided 2 save files in order to experience some of the game's content, and it could be a case where perhaps the character was just too over leveled, and maybe the gear I had was just too strong or too good for the enemies I was taking on. This didn't happen all the time. There are certainly some stronger field enemies that are in these large zones that did provide a bit of a challenge, but for the most part I'm just walking through these large zones, destroying absolutely everything, and it kind of makes like getting to your objective in these large areas a little bit mindless.
So like the enemies feel kind of tedious.
Hours of this game that I've been able to play so far, I think that Echoes of Aincrad is going to be a good action RPG, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be anything standout or special. There are a few unique approaches to this game's combat system that are a little bit refreshing.
Where's he going?
Invested in this game's story as well. I love the typical dot hack type premise, and it's reminded me, I should probably sit down and watch Sword Art Online.
How is he not if he knows about if he knows about dot hack? How have you not watched SAO?
And exploration does concern me, where I feel like people will start to get a little bit
I feel like dot hack's a much easier one to forget about.
Fatigued or maybe even bored after playing this for beyond
there's
10
one of
hours.
us and his
It's strange
rapiers.
though, I am left curious to see more of this game based on the aspects that I did like. I should also mention that I really like the environments of this game, the world. It seems interesting to me, and it's also visually beautiful, as much as it does feel barren a lot of the time. But I do think that if you're a fan of Sword Art Online, if you've got an attachment to this franchise, then you're probably going to enjoy this just a little extra. So those are my early thoughts on Echoes of Aincrad. A massive shout out to Bandai Namco for supplying me early access to the game. We're not too far away. This game launches in just a month. Thank you so much for tuning into today's video. Be sure to slippity.
Okay. I probably wasn't gonna play the game anyway. But We'll see. Hopefully it's still a good SAO game at the very least, if nothing else.